And in between rounds, some of the competitors checked out how they could set up their own range in their own home with the laser-activated shot reporter system. The dry fire system does not use bullets and can be set up in rooms the size of a bedroom or office. The laser computer programs can create various stages and give people the same feeling of the different types of targets they would see during a shooting competition.
Way for people to practice. No one has to know what you're doing. You can go and take classes from a firearms instructor, and you should do that. You can come home and practice those same lessons and those tactics at home in your own privacy. So I think it's only going to grow because gun ownership is growing in America, despite what you're hearing on out in the newspapers and stuff like that. It's growing, so practice is going to grow as well.
For more information about the laser system, log on to their website.
Hello, Laser Nation. Glad to see you on this weekend. And welcome to the very first episode of this new live stream tech platform that we're going to try to do here. We're going to bring in Sam here in just a couple of seconds. But we wanted to wish you all a very happy Friday. You made it at the end of the week. And on these episodes, I don't know right now whether we're going to do 30 minutes or an hour. We're going to bring in some interviews, but we're going to cover some housekeeping items. We're going to give you some latest news as to where you can find us and some of the activities we're involved in. But more importantly, we're going to cover questions and answers that you might have regarding dry fire, regarding Laser X, Laser Classic, or anything that you have within our Laser X community. So what I want to do is bring on board Sam. You're going to see him here. Hey, Sam, happy Friday. How you doing today?
Oh, doing good. It's Friday, so what can I say? You know?
So is it burning up? Where are you at? I'm in Plano, Texas, and
Yeah.
it is. If I look at it, it's 103 degrees. It's still three-digit weather. But how about you? What's up in
Nebraska? Yeah, we're in Nebraska, and it is 76 degrees outside right now.
So you're trying to rub that in? Is that what you're trying to do?
No, the air quality's terrible here. So, like, kids can't even go outside and play because you're inhaling Canada smoke.
Now, you said Canada. When I was up in Ohio a couple of weeks ago, they had talked about the issue of the smoke and some of the wildfires. Do you run that into that too?
Yeah, not so much like we run into the after effects of, that stuff. Like, it's not like we necessarily have wildfires, but all the after effects of that stuff come down our way. And then like the other morning, I walked out to let the dogs out in the morning, and it was straight up like you could taste it. No, it's just in the air. You can see it. It was like a haze. It was like being in Afghanistan again. You just looked up and it was like, oh man, that's some dirty air.
Gotcha. So, I mean, you could feel it, but you don't see ash on your car or anything like that. Gotcha. Let's do this. So this week, we're here at our home office, and you're at the operations office here in Nebraska. But next week, we got a couple of things coming up. So if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we were up in Lima, Ohio with our friends at the Saber Shooting Club in Lima. But we're going to hit the road again. That was for a Glock event. So we're going to hit the road again. And the next event that we're going to go to is actually going to be related to Glock. And if you remember, this was the first Glock match we went to. We've been to Steel Challenge. And I'm trying to look up here. We've been to Steel Challenge. We've been to Scholastic Action Shooting, both in a local event and a regional event. But now we're going back to what's the equivalent of, I think, their World Series. I don't know if that's a fair analogy. World Series Glock shooting match. and that's going to be in Talladega, and it's going to be the gunny shoot. Let me see if I can bring that up here. So GSSF, I was getting it backwards. I was calling it Glock Shooting Sports. It's actually Glock Sports Shooting Foundation. So sorry,
Oh.
I'm Lexic Diz. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, along with some other issues that I have, that's one of them. But what we're going to do, let me show you who's going to join us. We're joining a couple of our fellow vendor friends up there. And if you see it here, so Glock, obviously, they're hosting it, and it's at the CMP, Talladega CMP Park, and it's an awesome range. Have you ever been there, Sam? Have you ever been there? It would be, I'd almost say, like the outside of the Marine Corps. Now, you were in the Army. Outside of those KD courses, it's probably almost like I'd say a country club shooting range. They actually had a full-on KD course. I think it went out to 500 or 600 yards or meters. I can't remember the actual footage. They had action shooting bays on one side. Then you had shotgun. It was just like it's like going to Disney World or Disneyland for, I would say, for shooting. Yeah. So there, we have obviously Glock. Our friends from DryFireMag, John and his guys with the company will be there. And you have a smart DryFireMag in the office, don't you, Sam?
I do. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and what can you tell me what's special about that puppy? I know they have the magazines, and this is not a real magazine, but this is a magazine you can put in your own actual firearm, pull the trigger, and get the feel. But what was special about that DryFireMag that you have, or the smart DryFireMag?
Yeah, so the one, so I guess to start out, so it does allow you to make repeated shots, but the magazine contacts the laser insert that you'd put into your gun. So using your own gun, so like I have custom stippling on my Glock 19. If I was to use a caliber insert with it, I'm going to have to charge a handle after every trigger pull, but I don't have to do that with the smart DryFireMag. So I have my custom, like my grip. You know, I've ground off the finger grooves on my 19, and like I said, custom stippled and put accelerator cuts into it and everything. So it's a lot of like my index points and everything are there, so I can go back to my gun, my holster.
Gotcha.
So
rather than grabbing a generic gun off the shelf, you can actually use your existing, I think it was your Glock that you had, a Glock.
Yeah, that's what I run. Yeah.
And you could put that magazine there. And what's cool about it is, with that special version of the DryFireMag, which is the smart DryFireMag, you can use your own gun, like you said, your customized, sexied up gun, but have a what do you call it? A resetting trigger. Is that fair enough to say? Well, you don't have to rack it every single time like you would with your traditional cartridge or magazine.
Yeah. And oddly enough, just on that note, I did have a customer call in this week. And said that he bought a resetting trigger from Glock, one of those training resetting triggers.
Right.
And it works with the caliber insert.
Really? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's probably something we'll have to look up in one of these future episodes. But let me ask this. If one of you guys out there, and this is the crazy thing about live, I tend to break things and things come out of the blue. But if you have one of those devices, shoot us an email or in the comment section below of this post, whether you're watching it on a replay. Let us know what that is and what you think about it, because we're always looking for tech to help you with your dry fire. But more importantly, we don't want tech to steal the spotlight when it comes to your training. It should be invisible. But if it does get you that training, the effectiveness of that training for you, that's really what we want to hear about. So yeah, if you have one of these magazines magazines or self-resetting things from Glock that helps you do that, like Sam described, please shoot us a comment below and let us know. Yeah. So going back to what we have there, our friends besides DryFireMag, Brian, most colorful person I've seen at any of these events from Hunter's HT Gold. And again, we don't have sponsors. These are just friends of ours, folks that we believe in their product, and they're good people who support the 2A community. He'll be there too. For me, he's the most colorful guy there, even though there's a rainbow. It could be a rainbow in the sky. Look out for Brian. It's all in the shoes or the shirt that he's wearing. He's a real great guy. I think folks in the 2A community love him, especially because he goes out there and supports the active sports shooting community. So he'll be there as well. So let me show you what we have. Some of you folks, I don't know if you've ever looked at doing a Glock match. Have you shot any competition matches, Sam? Like a sanctioned match, whether it's IDPA, IPSC, or let's say Steel Challenge. Have you ever done one of those?
I have not, no.
Okay. What I thought was interesting, I've shot a couple. I know you and I have shot in the military. So that's a different, would you say shooting for qualification in the military is different than what you would see for some type of competition, even between your friends?
Oh, vastly different, yeah.
Now, And a lot of things. So when I first started, I actually started with IDPA. Great guys. I would say these are folks who love the sport. But what's nice about it, they'll take the new shooter aside and actually coach them and tell them, here's how you, to use a term, play the game, because it is a competition. We're not saying game from a standpoint of firearms is a toy, but we're saying, no, this is a sport and there's techniques you do. But IDPA, great folks, they've been around for a long time, and they teach you about, they'll teach you about the shooting competition. What's great about it is, in the 2A community, it's almost like a father, son, mother, daughter. They'll bring you aside and help you out if you ask. But with Glock, what I liked about it is it's very, I'd say, low pressure. I watch it for the first time, and in fact, my son Zachary never shot competition before. We have a Glock 19X, and he calls it his gun now. But it was his first event, and I basically said, "Look, we've been to the range. Let me let you loose, and you go to the safety briefing, go to the different stages, and shoot the match." And he came back; he was pretty thrilled. I think if any of the matches, they're all great, but Glock does a good job making a national format, but a very low pressure environment where family and first time shooters will actually enjoy a competitive shooting event.
No, that's cool.
The one mistake, in fact, you can make mistakes. And the mistake that we made is, so when we load, and I think probably Sam, you carry every day?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And when I load my mags, or when we load our mags, my son and I understand we load it for a different purpose, for everyday carry, so for self-defense. So we load a full mag and one in the pipe. When he went there, there wasn't one in the pipe, but he had a full mag. I think it was 16 rounds in his magazine. And when he was shooting, I think the RO for his stage was saying, "Hey, wait a minute. I think I counted 12 shots there." I guess he was kind of embarrassed. He was upset when he came back to our booth and said, "Hey, Dad, you didn't tell me I wasn't supposed to load the magazines only to 10. But I think he missed that part in the safety briefing. But the reason I bring that up is these competitions, the format and the people who are there are willing to teach you. And as long as you're safe, safety is always a big thing, and these guys do a great job at it. It's a great environment for you to learn and have it as a gateway event to some of the shooting sports, whether it's IPSC, IDPA, USPSA. I think all of these are great. But Glock, especially when I noticed it, it was a very low pressure, very good environment to learn for the first time. So if you're looking at doing it, Sam, we'll probably take you out to one of the matches in Nebraska. If you're looking at doing it, it's a great event to learn how to get into the shooting sports.
Yeah.
Let me show you something here. What I want to share with you is we went to Ohio, and I'm going to see if I could pull this up without fat fingering anything. And if you're wondering what exactly are the Glock matches like and what does it feel like, let me let you hear from one of the news stations actually came out and looked at the event and did a little story on it.
Visit roadstate.edu.
A national shooting competition returns to Lima this weekend to test people's marksmanship with a gun. For the second year in a row, the Glock Sports Shooting Foundation has brought one of their 55 competitions they hold nationwide each year to the Lima Saber Shooting Association. The competition is for shooters of all skill levels and gives them the chance to test their shooting abilities against both metal and paper targets. The competition in Lima has grown in its second year, and the Saber Club is glad to promote the positive side to the sport.
Last year we had 158 shooters, shot 271 entries. This year we're expecting 250 to 300 shooters and over 400 entries. We're promoting the good side of shooting. This is a sport. These people are in it to have fun.
Officials from the Glock competition have already locked in a weekend next year to hold another competition in Lima. The shooting competition wraps up on Sunday.
Sam, that was, remember that face, guys. That's Steve.
Steve
Tucci out of Lima, Ohio. Great guy. I think he's pretty well known in the shooting community, especially in the NRA shooting community up in Ohio. But he was our host up at the Lima Saber Shooting Club. And we're going to have him, because he's been in the shooting space for quite a while, as an instructor for the NRA in the state, also as a member of that club. But we're going to bring him in to talk about different topics, especially if you're looking for an instructor, such as what's the way to find an instructor? Because I think you know that a lot of the places we see hitting our website are places like New York City, shh, don't say anything, Chicago, LA, and I would assume there's people looking for information on firearms and how to train with them. And folks like Steve, we're going to bring on others as well, they're there to help you understand what you should look for in a good instructor, and also where you can go find a good instructor. I mean, if I were to ask you, Sam, if you were to look for an instructor, where would you go to? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when it comes to an instructor?
Oh yeah, I would definitely look for someone. I mean, are you meaning like what am I looking at in an instructor, or what am I?
Or one of the
like, where would I go to look for one?
Exactly. Where would you go if you were saying, hey, I want to get a firearm for self-defense or maybe for sport shooting? Where would you go off the top of your mind? I know you've been in the military and the Army. I've been in the Marine Corps, so maybe we're not the right demographic, but where was the first time you'd think you'd go to?
Yeah, I'd say like mine's going to be a little more biased because it's, being in the space so long, you just kind of know different ins and outs.
Right.
Like my first reaction, or if I'm, I would go to probably concealedcarry.com and start looking there. But if I didn't know about concealed carry and those guys over there, I would probably start asking like the place I go to, wherever I go to purchase my gun.
Right.
That's usually, those guys are going to know at least somewhere, or at least point you in a direction, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to give you a solid instructor. I've seen over the years numerous videos come out of people that,
I think one of the challenges, you mentioned something, a place where you go to buy your gun. In some places, I would say it's kind of tough to where to go to buy your gun. And in fact, if you're not even at that point where you're ready to buy something, how do you start? How do you get into the gun culture? Because I remember when I first got in, I was talking to a local gun store here in Plano, Texas, Gunmaster, and I asked them, why do people come here and ask you questions about guns? And a lot of them, they told me a lot of folks come in kind of scared to ask because they feel like if they're not and I don't mean this as a bad term, but if they're not military or tactical type of people, maybe they're going to look dumb and stupid because it is. When you go into a different culture, just like you go to a different country or a different place, there's a certain language, a certain etiquette, certain behavior.
Sure.
Like, for example, you don't flag somebody as you're on the gun counter when you're moving, even though it's an unloaded gun.
Right.
You don't put the muzzle towards anybody else. You kind of keep it pointed down and away from everybody. So there's certain etiquette, certain customs and language that we use that I think we'll bring in folks like Steve to help newcomers into the space feel comfortable in the 2A community.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but going back to Lima, so one of the things is we're going to invite you to a lot of these matches for Glock. But in the meantime, we did a survey I'd say, what is it, maybe a week and a half ago, Sam, would you say?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And we got about 109 respondents on that survey. And the question was this, it's getting cold in some places. Some places it's just hard to get to a match after work. It's no joke. One of the challenges for me getting to a live range is a drive. The closest live range where I can do tactical movements or move around is about an hour away. And if I get off of work at 5 and it's getting dark, okay, it's tough to do that. So we're looking at doing something like virtual dry fire matches. And what I mean by virtual dry fire matches is with LASRX and Laser Classic, those are the two software packages that we have at Laser. We're going to invite people to purchase, let's say, a Steel Challenge set of targets or Glock Match set of targets. And on a certain week, we're going to say, we're going to shoot these 3 targets. And if you log in, we'll probably register on something like Practice Score, maybe on our website, maybe pay a small fee to pay for the server time. We're going to allow people across the U.S. who have these targets in LaserX and Classic to share their screen and compete with somebody in a different portion of the U.S. So let's say you're in Nebraska, Sam, and we've got folks in South Texas, we've got folks in Ohio, Chicago, L.A. They can actually stream and be part of that competition from within their own office like I have here.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. And we asked people, would that be of interest to you? And let me show you, let me share some of these results here. So on the first question that we had, and sorry, I need to put my glasses on my readers for this. Do you dry fire? Now, last time I checked and I pulled these slides, there are about 109 people who responded. Of the people who responded, a large portion, obviously, if they're, I would say almost obviously, if they're on our website, they're probably dry firing. But there's a portion, again, who are watching and on our website probably don't dry fire yet, or they're thinking about it. So that was one of the questions. Do you dry fire? And if you do dry fire, what do you use? Because there's all sorts of things, right? We have SIRTs, we have sim guns, we have these BB guns, and you can buy a laser dongle that goes on the BB gun, so you can actually practice those things. Majority of the people, and this was a multiple choice question, majority of the people had SIRTs, and I think next was followed by a laser cartridge. So some of those small brass laser cartridges that you can buy off of Amazon or in the local gun store. And it looks good. So there's people who actually have quite a bit of the gear who might be willing to do this. The next question we started getting into was, what application do you have? Because if we're going to do this share screen or doing a webcast or a live cast, you got to have something to show your shots and also score it for you. So it looks like a lot of people either have Laser Classic, Laser X, by the way, the best software on the market, and they might even have both. But those are the two software packages or items that you'll need in order to share and participate in it, because that's the only way we can show your score and your results. We trust people, but trust but verify. How about that?
Yeah.
The next one is, do you compete in any matches? Some of these folks wanted to find out, are you already competing? Or no, you're not shooting yet, just to get a feel of the people who will participate. Don't be afraid, guys. If you've never done this before, this is probably the best way to learn. We'll teach you the customs and etiquette. But majority of the people, was it over 60%, almost 60%, saying they don't compete. So Sam, you're probably in that crowd, right? I mean,
I'm in the purple line.
You're in the purple line. I guess I'm quasi competing. I've done it before, but I'm not actively competing right now. In fact, I'm not ranked or anything. So the next question we go to is, if you compete, if you don't compete, or whether you do or not, would you consider doing something like this, a virtual match? And a lot of folks said, yeah, let's give this a shot. So maybe it's a gateway substance where people can actually try out some type of competition, but in the safety of their own home using lasers.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty promising. So folks, if that sounds like you or something you're interested in, leave the notes or leave a comment below, and let us see what you have there. Now, last one we have here, let's go here, is what format? So in our store we have Steel Challenge posters, we do GSSF, Scholastic. Shoot, we can even take regular bullseye posters. If we all agree that we're going to do just a standard bullseye and we're going to go for the 10 ring or whatever, we can do that too. But we'll probably do something along the Steel Challenge or Glock match type of feel. And the idea is, again, to get people accustomed or maybe even ready to try a Glock match. Again, Glock is pretty low pressure, but sometimes people are still pensive about that, like my son Zachary was. But this might be a good way to do it. So I wanted to share that with you. That's one of the things we're looking at doing in the near future. Maybe we'll shoot our first match, virtual match in October, first week of October. So if you have your CERT or your posters, hey, we'll be ready to compete. So keep a lookout on our Facebook page or some of these social.
Looks like Ben might have cut out real quick, but there we go. You're back.
Good. Government spying on me. How about that? I'm one of those guys. All right. So now, in the meanwhile, what I want to do is, if you're waiting between matches to compete, or one of the biggest challenges, Sam, I've heard is, great, I have a laser cartridge, the basic laser cartridge. Sure. I have my handgun and I have a target. But dry fire is basically that. Am I just really just shooting at a target over and over and over again? And the answer is, well, you can, but there's other resources that are out there that allow you to that will allow you to try different exercises. And this is something I wanted to share with you guys. So we have some friends over at Shooter Ready Challenge, and do you know the folks, Sam? You've run into these guys before?
Yep. That's good old Riley Bauman.
Right. And the one thing about Shooter Ready Challenge is they have a site, and you can see it here. If you log into that site, you'll be able to see their videos. And each month, right now, I believe they're at USCCA's convention up in Wisconsin. So they might not, I don't know if they'll have one this month. I've heard they will. They have videos, and this is Riley Bauman, the director of their training, who puts out a video on exercises. So in this case, you can see here where he's talking about the accelerator. It's one of the stages in Steel Challenge. You can see here he's telling you how to set up a dojo, or showing you what you should consider when you're setting up a training area for dry fire. So along with drills you might try at home, which he does, ideas about competition shooting. And if I understand correctly, Sam, he's a pretty accomplished shooter, isn't he? Riley's a pretty accomplished shooter.
Yeah, Riley's. Yeah, I know he's shot competitively, and like when I've shot next to him, it just at like when we've been at different shows and stuff like that, he'll come over to the booth and hang out. And if me and him tried to go toe to toe in a competition, it was like,
Or you're gonna smoke him, huh? You'll beat him.
Oh no, I was the mop he used to clean the floor with. It was ridiculous.
Oh, I got you. So he punched the bore of his pistol with you at the end, like, hey man, I just cleaned up with a clean sandwich.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. He's so fast.
See, what's great about that, not only will it teach you things about shooting and some of these challenges and stages, what's nice about it is he covers a wide breadth of topics. Like I said, he was talking about how to set up your dojo or your dry fire area. But here's one, if you notice the video in the middle, he's actually having you think beyond just shooting. But let's say you get injured or get shot and you have to apply a tourniquet during a confrontation, or let's say you're a self-defensive situation. How are you going to handle that and still defend yourself by still controlling your firearm? So these guys do a pretty darn good job. There's, I don't know how many videos. They've been around for a while, and they've been producing videos, so there's 2 pages of it. So if you're looking for exercises or anything that you can use to train in between sessions, I'd recommend you go check out their website. You can go through our website and use that link, laserapp.com/SRC, and it'll get you here. And what's cool about it is, if you sign up on their site, you'll get notification when a new episode comes out, but one of the things I like is free gear. So you'll be registered to win some of Concealed Carry Inc.'s free gear that they have out there. And they have a pretty wide swath of stuff.
Yeah, they do. They do. They got some good stuff.
And you talk with these guys on a regular basis, right? I mean, I think you have some contacts over at the CCI side of the house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I talk to them fairly regularly. They're a good group of guys.
Good guys. Who's one of the guys you talk to on a normal basis?
I talk most to Jason Gibson. So, yeah.
Does he run the shop?
Yeah, he kind of runs the customer service side of the house, and then he does a bunch of tech stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
we have to bounce a lot of customer service, advice off of each other.
Okay.
Hey, get good feedback from each other, just how you handle certain situations and how to do it in the right way. So we're trying to grow and learn together. So it's cool.
Gotcha. And like again, I said, these guys, Concealed Carry Inc., they're up in USCCA today in Wisconsin, so they're pretty busy. But if you're there, guys, I'd recommend you stop by their booth. Talk to Jacob. He's the owner of the company. You have Riley. You have, who are the other folks there? You have Doc, right?
Yep.
Doc.
Brian,
Brian, and he makes the Mountain Man medical
stuff.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So if you're there, check them out at USCCA. Let me jump to a different one. This is going to be what we call, I'm going to say, Sam's Corner. We'll go to you. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. Let me go over here. So Sam, you do stuff on a regular.
So yeah, Ben is currently there. We go.
I realized on the software. Again, this is live, so I'm still learning it. You're watching all the foibles here. I have to put myself in there, otherwise you can't hear me. But Sam, you do a lot of the stuff at the office.
I do. Not the shooter ready challenge stuff. Right. That's those guys. I was just letting you know, Ben, that's still up there.
Okay.
But yeah, so we 3D print stuff. If you've bought cameras from us and things like that before, you'd probably notice that we do that. But I've kind of been experimenting with different things around the office, messing with different settings on the 3D printers and the filaments and stuff, just trying to go, what would be good things to print that are like, they're functional and good for use, but aren't something super exorbitant or expensive to make. What you see in the picture there is a flared mag well, and it's one of the problems I run into on my Glock 19 is I go to do a mag change and my fat meat hook gets smashed in between the mags and it hurts so bad. So I decided I was messing around with some filament, and that's actually TPU, so it's a flexible filament.
Okay.
But it makes it, and I can show you, I've got it right here. So this is on a SIRT. I put it on a SIRT here. and it actually flexes. So like I can push down on it and it comes right back, which is really, I mean, it was kind of interesting and fun to do. But we can print in things like PETG, and then I've also printed like mag extensions. So this is printed in nylon carbon fiber. And so it's really, really light, but it's still pretty durable. Just different things like that. So, just kind of looking at different things and kind of, thinking about what are things we could print that even if someone say they have a CERT or they have, whatever they're dry firing with, what's something, even if it's a live fire, hey, I really want this for my gun or my gun belt, whether it's a hook for their ear pro, so when they're not shooting, they can just hook their ear pro down onto their belt, things like that. I've just been kind of trying to toss that around in my head as to what we could make that would be really inexpensive, but like be super helpful,
And I think that's a good point, because a lot of the products we come up with, we can create things, but it might be things that Sam and Ben are the only ones who would ever buy.
Right.
But I think one of the fair things that we did was, let me pull something up here. A lot of the products we do are based on input from customers. So, for example, if you notice here on our homepage, we have Scholastic Action Shooting posters, Glock posters, and Steel Challenge. A lot of these came from ideas or requests from customers who said, hey, I could use one of these things. Can you produce it? So I think from the standpoint of what you're talking about there, Sam, you're saying that, hey, if you guys have an idea for 3D printing, toss those ideas your way. It might be something we can do. How would they do something like that?
Yeah, so the best way to do it would be like they could email us. They can call me, but it's probably going to be better if they have an email, just so I can kind of not miss something. But you can also email us. You can see the email address at the bottom of the screen is 3dprint@laserapp.com.
Right.
One of the things that's really, really helpful, if especially when people throw 3D printing ideas at me, is if they can find an example of it, or if they, so I can see a picture or something to look at. Because if I have to design it myself, that could take some time. But a lot of times I can find stuff that actually those files are widely available and it's super quick. I could just download the file real quick and throw it on the printer. But yeah.
Well, that makes sense. So, yeah, guys, if there's an idea, and again, it's not guaranteed that we can produce it, because even with some of these training posters and so forth, it depends on some of the conditions. But if it's something we can do for you, let us know. And we're always open to those ideas. Again, shoot us an email at 3dprint@laserapp.com. And then Sam and I will look through those ideas. We'll see if it's possible. And we might even give you a call. So make sure you leave some information on how to get a hold of you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So let's go to the next segment. So this is the housekeeping of this is the more official stuff that we're going to have to deal with. And this is the, I guess, would I say serious side of the house? We're going to do the Ask Sam segment. And this is a case where I guess we're going to do some housekeeping.
Sure.
Do you want to hit off with the first thing, Sam, or do you want me to start off with something?
Why don't you go ahead and kick her off so I know where we're going.
Let's see what we're going to do here. So one of the big things that has happened, and it's not just unique to us, it's industry-wide, and you may have seen some of the emails come out, is that if you're a LaserX user, there's typically, when you're logging in, a text message you'll get on your phone, or you might get it via email. Well, on September 1st, I'll say telecom or communications industry, which I was part of for over 25 years, has a new regulation saying that any text messages that go out to a phone in the United States has to be registered. They have to know the number, what the purpose is, and the name of the company who's sending it out, which is all a good thing. But what has happened is a lot of companies, and we're not the only one, there are other folks who are reaching out to me saying, hey, send us via email. Their text messages are currently being blocked. And there's a huge backlog, because if you can imagine, any company who sends a text message in the U.S. today is having to do this. And all these gatekeepers or these pipelines into the text messaging platform that Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, the big three guys use, they're being vetted first. So there's a backlog. That said, if you're using LaserX and you used to have a text message go to your phone, right now we'll have to go back to using email messages. So you'll get the 4-digit email code or registration code onto your phone. And this is what's on our website right now. So if you are using LaserX and need to get your 4-digit code changed back from a text message on your phone to your email address, go ahead and click on support@laserapp.com, and it's the light box that shows up on the screen, and send us, well, we'll see what email address it comes from when you send us an email, but we'll know to convert you back to email until we can get the 4-digit code registration completed. Because again, there's a huge backlog. I've been told it's several weeks, sometimes it's maybe at minimum 3 weeks. So we'll see when it clears out, but it's something new, something we encountered when Labor Day came around. So it happened, of all times, on a weekend.
On a weekend,
On a long weekend. How about that? You can guarantee it'll happen then.
Yep.
Yeah. And the next one, I'm gonna go with another one, is from a question that we got. Let me go back to you and me. Let's see if we could do this. A question that we got from one of our customers and users out in, actually, I think it's local to me here. And it is from, let's see here, who's the question from? Natalie, part of the Jesuit competitive shooting team. And the question is there a webcam that you can use on phones? And I'm assuming that means they're using Laser X, not Laser Classic, since Laser Classic needs a Windows environment, so it's not going to be on the phone. Do you know, or do you have any insight as to any webcam that can be used with I'll say a phone, or maybe even a tablet or a smart tablet?
Not that I'm aware of. We haven't found a good way to do that yet. Now there's different dongles and things like that you can attach to the bottom of your phone. I've tried it on one of my phones, just on a straight USB to USB-C. The phone just doesn't recognize it, and it's just because it's not made to do that per se, as far as I know. Now, obviously, I haven't dug into their code and tried to figure that side of it out, but there is a way in which you could do it, but it's expensive. It's like this box that you hook the phone up to, but the box is like $200 some in and of itself, and then you're going to have to run a third-party app. And so when you start going down that train of you've got to run a third-party app to pull the feed for the camera, you're going to run into LaserX now fighting that application for the camera feed, and so it gets really complicated and convoluted really fast. Also expensive really fast.
Yeah, I think we looked at it, right? It was about a $200 box to run maybe $100, maybe even a $50 webcam.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a trade-off, and again, when you combine tech on top of a web layer, it becomes pretty tricky. I won't kid you, but again, I mean, we rely on folks in the Laser Nation who are trying all sorts of stuff. I mean, we run into different use cases. If you have a setup, maybe shoot it in the comments or notes below if you're watching this on replay, and let us know, is there something you found that works? Because I'm sure folks like Natalie here on the Jesuit competitive shooting team, she's not the only one asking that question.
Oh, yeah.
And what's great is, to a community, we kind of, we'll just say, rig things up, and we make it work. And this is a great way to share that use case or the solution with other people.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Let me clear that one off. So do you have a question that you usually run into, Sam?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's probably a question per se.
Okay.
It would be more of along the lines of like the recoil training.
Sure.
That keeps getting brought up. And it's valid. Like I know when I first came into the dry fire space, I was like, well, how are you simulating recoil? And, because that needs to be a part of it. And I mean, it might be an unpopular opinion.
Are we getting in trouble here?
But I might get in trouble here.
Hey guys,
so we'll say this is
email for Sam. Make sure
just
inbox.
just email me at support@laserapp.com and specify it to Sam. But as I've kind of grown and learned in this space over the last, I think I've been working here for 7.5 years now.
You're the salty dog here. You're the salty.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very microscopic compared to a lot of the customers I talk to. They've been in this space for a long, long time. But I've just found that me personally, I just don't like training with recoil simulated devices. I mean, one, it's expensive. Two, you're adding a layer of complexity there. One of the really big reasons, though, is that like recoil is a byproduct of shooting. Like it happens after the fundamentals are in place. So, and the human body just doesn't like explosions going off in front of your face. It's not designed to do that. It's not designed to be okay with that. And so for me on the range, I'll develop a flinch after a couple hundred rounds. And so I need to train that back out, and recoil simulated devices don't help me in that. It's just it's another pop in front of my face. It's gonna, so, and that's a personal note. You might have people that overcome that pretty quick.
Sure.
But, like I said, it adds another layer of complexity when you're trying to use it with software and things like that. I mean, I'm more than willing to help people that want to use them. Trying to get it to work the best they can, because I want people to be able to train with what they want to train with. But it's just, I know for me personally, I don't. So we do support that use. It's just, again, you're adding another layer of complexity there, and so it is going to be a little more nuanced as to how you have to work through that and things you need to tweak and fine tune. Sure. But I mean, like I said, I'm definitely here. You can set up appointments. I'll sit down with you and try to figure out how that best works with what you have. But I mean, you're going to go down the Laser Classic trail if you're going to go down that with either of our softwares, and which does afford screen share opportunities a little bit easier. But
and to that point, I think it's good to say. I mean, would you say in the dry fire space? I know live fire, there's a debate: 9mm or 45 stopping.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
In the dry fire space, it's recoil or no recoil. I've heard that from salty guys, from both sides of the aisle. Yeah. But you're right, we do support it. In fact, Laser Classic is the software application that, surprisingly, for the price point that it's at, it runs on your computer, and it's one of the few applications that a person who is on a typical income can afford. It's not a $8,000, $6,000 system, and it's usually when you start seeing people involve recoil. But for the Laser Classic software application, you can run it off of your laptop. But you do need, in this case, there's an orange camera on our website called the Laser Classic Advanced Camera. And it's because, Sam, you've heard this many times, it's because on a lot of the recoil devices that are out there, I think Coolfire for one that comes to mind, laser pulse is so short that regular webcams, and this might be the geeky part of it, regular webcams cannot pick up that laser.
Right.
It's what, I think you said 6 to 8 milliseconds? Is that
usually I don't recommend anybody go below 6 to 8 milliseconds when they're using it with our software. And that is me. Like, one thing, if any of you guys that are watching who've talked to Ben and I, we're very transparent, and we're just going to say things the way they are, even if it's, hey, our software is not capable of doing that, because we want you all to train the best that you can. And we hope that our software fits into that. But 6 to 8 milliseconds is about what that camera is capable of seeing. Right. I've heard of pulse durations going down as short as 2 milliseconds. And I'm like, man, unless you have a phantom camera that slow-mo guys use, it's just, I would say our software is not capable of accurately detecting consistently where you shot and how fast you shot if you're below that 6 millisecond line.
Would you say, and it's not the limitation so much of the software or your laptop or your computer even, it's a limitation of the camera that's available. I don't have one here.
Sure,
on the market, because you and I have researched this a lot and tested a lot of cameras, and there are only, I'd say, 1 or 2 consumer grade cameras. And when I mean consumer, less than $100, actually not $100, less than $250 that you can buy that actually supports recoil, and it doesn't go down. I think the bottom level, the fastest pulse it can pick up is maybe 3 milliseconds.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
So I think it's a challenge. Now you can get a $10,000 camera that will pick it up, but then again, the idea is we're trying to make dry fire training accessible and remove all those barriers. And if you're saying, hey man, to do recoil, it's $10,000 just to get the camera. That's usually putting it into one of these larger institutional dry fire systems that you have, or simulators. So just wanted to hit on that.
No, absolutely. It's not the software. It's just the mathematical factor of pulse duration time versus frame rates. It's that's what it is. It's just that.
And on that one, I want to put that out. Let me see if I can pull this up here. We have a poll. In fact, we put a poll together because the dry fire with recoil question comes up a lot.
It does,
yeah. So if you're watching this on replay, you can still vote, but we'd like to get your feedback. If you go to this link, and I'm pointing at my screen, I should be pointing at the camera, or what is it? If you point at this link down below,
right
here, go there, register your vote. Do you use recoil as part of your practice and your training? If you do, let us know, because we've heard it from both sides. Some salty guys, even in the military, and we've used mile systems with recoil. But the one thing you should know is when we first start and hand a rifle or a handgun to someone who's never shot before, or maybe they've shot, it's always with dry fire and there's no recoil involved. As you progress in your training, and maybe this is a good way to put it, as you progress in your training evolution, maybe start off with a laser cartridge. It's not bad, you're racking it. And if you find yourself developing that training scar, that you're reaching up and racking it. And I've seen this in videos where people are actually practicing and they're tempted to reach up and grab it with a laser cartridge. Maybe that's a time or an indicator that you're ready. You've dry fired frequently enough that you should go for something like a SIRT. SIRT's a great thing because you don't have to rack it anymore. So that tells you maybe it's time to progress in my evolution to buy something new. And now, if you've mastered it pretty well and dry fired, and you want to up the training challenge that you have from a SIRT, maybe you go for infrared. Yeah. And then that way you're no longer, and again, this is empty and clear, and you're no longer cheating by not looking at looking down the sights, but looking at the laser. We've seen people do that. They're shooting at the targets, but now they're watching the laser.
Oh, I'm guilty of doing that all the time.
And that might be an indication that now you've trained enough that you're starting to develop a scar. You need to go for infrared. Yep. And after you've developed that practice of always using your picture sight alignment with infrared because you can't see the laser, maybe that's the point where you up the training value and go for recoil, because now you've done all the basics and fundamentals. It's now time to add in sight disturbance. Maybe that's what you need to do. So, because buying all this tech, I love tech. I came from the tech industry, but it should not be the star or the what's spotlighted in your training. If anything, tech should be transparent to your training, and that's why we say maybe save recoil, which tends to be the more expensive continuum of the training options. Save that for the very end when you've mastered it, really got a good handle on all the fundamentals. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. So for my next sermon, Sam.
Okay.
I know it's not Sunday yet, but so guys, if you have a comment, go ahead and go to that link, register your vote. So the next episode will show the results and see how many people are really into dry fire. If it's something that you're religious about, let's do it. Let's cover that a bit more, and it'll guide some of the next sessions that we have here.
Yeah.
So let's go to something. We'll start wrapping it up here. I know we're coming up on an hour. Let's go to something a little more fun.
Okay.
And,
before you do that, Ben, Ken had a question.
Oh yeah, let's bring it up here. Let's see what Ken had here. Ken, what was your question? Let's show this one here.
Yeah. So Ken's question, can someone use a red dot on their gun? Yeah, Ken. So that's a good question. So if you mean red dot, and by that I'm assuming you mean a sight, red dot sight on your gun with our software. Yeah, absolutely, because that's not emitting any laser onto the targets itself to throw the software off. If you're talking about like more of I've had people ask me about the Crimson Trace lasers that actually project a laser. That one you can't, because it's still the software is gonna see a laser. It doesn't know whether that's coming from a SIRT pistol, a cartridge insert, or from your Crimson Trace. But if you have a red dot, sight, people do that all the time.
Sorry, I jumped something ahead of time here. Let's push this here.
Yeah.
So, one thing to point out, going back to the red dot question, I think it's important. As you can use whatever sight you want, as long as it's not emitting a change in light on your target. And I think that's a big thing. That's why the red dot laser would be a problem, because it's essentially another SIRT pistol that's constantly on,
right,
on your target. But if it's just something that's on a hologram or on a I'll say a window, you should be okay. Or even a scope, you should be fine there. So hopefully that answered the question for you, Ken. All right. So I think that's the only question I saw here. Any other ones that you see, Sam? Yeah, I appreciate that one.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the dangerous and most dangerous part of the the session, and we'll see if we keep this on here. And as we bring in guests, so we'll bring other people on board, we're going to ask them these same questions. And I'm going to move this over. It's called the wheel.
The wheel of woe. Either you're dreading to answer the question that's coming up, or the question's so surprising that you're like, whoa.
Well, yeah. Now, what's interesting about it is there's 10 questions on here. We'll change it from time to time. There's 10 various questions, from what type of pets you have to what type of gun you have, to who's the most influential person. Don't know what it is. This is random. And if Sam answered, he'll take maybe about a minute to answer the question, but then I got to answer it too. So just because I pick a question doesn't mean that I get off scot-free or the guest gets off scot-free. The host has to answer it too. So you ready for this one, guys?
Yep.
All right. What is it? The wheel of woe. Let's hit it. Let's see what happens here. All right. Little gimmick here. It's pretty good. Let's see what happens. Let's see. So, Sam, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
It
You
doesn't
go
matter. Me? Okay.
Oh, favorite caliber.
9 mil. 9
9
mil
mil.
all day.
Why is
Yep.
a 9 mil your favorite caliber?
It's obviously I carry all 9 mils, but also in the sense of, it's a good, like, I like it as a home defense round. One, because, like a 223 round's super fast. And even though I was trained on how to clear houses and all things like that with 223, 5.56, it's a really fast round. And so you got to think about where that bullet's going to go.
Okay.
I like 9 mil because I know if I have a hollow point in that thing, it's not going to go through my wall, through the neighbor's wall, through the next neighbor's wall, and it's, you look at, like, I love AR platforms.
Sure.
But the AR platforms that come in 9 mils, you're looking at, I don't know. I just kind of like it a lot.
Gotcha. So for a guy who shot 5.56 quite a bit, you're still a 9 mil guy. That's your baby.
Yeah. Not, the 5.56, it's, as I've thought about it outside of the military career, I was kind of like, and that's a little bit bigger than shooting a 22 or something. Okay, it sounds bad, but that thought's just kind of come through my head. Like, we deployed with a step above 22.
22 caliber.
You
got a fancier, sexier cartridge. That's what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, for me, I don't know if I'm going to get stones or bricks thrown my way. I like the 45 ACP round. I carry a 9 mil, and I'm going to wimp out because I'll say, as much as I love the 45, the first firearm I purchased was a beat up, secondhand, should I say, Rock Island Armory or Citadel 1911 officer model.
Oh, okay.
That sucker felt like I was walking around with weights on my waist in the summertime here in Texas.
Yeah.
What the challenge is, I enjoy it so much. The 45, when it leaves your firearm, it's like sitting in a muscle car. It's rocking and it's humming. But but when you're into it and you lose track of all that's going on other than your target, it's time to reload.
Yeah.
That's my biggest challenge about the 45 ACP. I love it. I think it's a superior round. I love it because it's an American round. But man, I do carry a 9 mil every day because I need more ammo. And man, when you get training, I just hate that. It's like interruption in the middle of enjoying a great steak or a pie. Gotta stop. Sorry, man. Time for vegetables. Oh, goodness sakes. That's my biggest thing but I love the 45 ACP.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Stones or bricks, you're more than welcome to throw in your comments at us.
I think you're safe.
Okay. Okay. You're cool with that. But I think that's really it for today. Next week, I don't know if we'll be at next week. I'll be again at the Gunny Match in Talladega. So we'll check to see if, I'd love to do it, but I don't know if the internet connection will carry it. I don't have all that fancy gear. Plus, it's on Friday. So we might post it for the 2 weeks from now. But if you have any questions or concerns, again, if you're on replay, leave comments below what you want to see. Things we'll cover. We're going to bring in folks like Livy Liveshot. She's a competitive shooter, Scholastic Action Shooting, Steel Challenge. Great thing is she's a high school student. And parents, if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, I don't have a band geek. I was a band geek. I don't have a baseball star like Sam was in high school. But I have a kid who might be into the competitive shooting space or might be a great athlete because shooting is a sport. We do have that in the Olympics. You watch it. This is a great way to find out more how she got into it, what she does to practice, and more. And the program she's involved in at the high school level or action level is Scholastic Action Shooting. We'll talk about that. And then we'll bring in folks like Steve to help you find a fire instructor in your neck of the woods. So what we'll do there is we'll end this for this week. Hope you all have a great weekend, Sam. And what do we normally say when we exit out these things?
Yeah, we just say train safe, train smart, train often.
And we'll see you next week on the range.
All right.